Welcome to Ninerology, Faithful in the Trenches. I'm your host, Alan, and we're here to talk about all things 49ers. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our upcoming videos from a fan's perspective. And today we want to talk about what's happened with the 49ers. We are still looking for a defensive coordinator. It is now February 28th, and no defensive coordinator has been announced. But there is an update because David Merritt of the Kansas City Chiefs has just interviewed for that open slot. Now, if you don't know who David Merritt is, he has 5 years of experience as a defensive backs coach with the Chiefs, most recently under Steve Spagnuolo, but he's been a coach in the league for almost 27 years. But the past 5 years, specifically with the Chiefs, as their DB coach, following along with Steve Spagnuolo. Now, how have the Chiefs done in their secondary? They've been a top 5 receiving defense for a long time. Last year, ranked top 5. They were actually number 4 in pass defense throughout the entire year. In fact, several Pro Bowlers on that roster. He's been integral to that, but also 14 seasons with the Giants as a defensive assistant. Now, how about as a player? David Merritt was also a linebacker for 4 years. I didn't know that. He was a linebacker, and which is huge because the 49ers' identity, their spirit on defense, is with their linebackers. You look at Fred Warner, you look at Dre Greenlaw, you even go back to the past, you have Alden Smith, you have Patrick Willis, you have Navarro Bowman. The linebacker is the identity of the 49ers defense. And so to have somebody to be able to interview somebody that has that pedigree, that knows the way that they think, that can see through that lens is very important. Now, will the next defensive coordinator be David Merritt? I don't know. Who knows? You still have out of the past couple of weeks, they've had 4 interviews. You have David Merritt, you have Brandon Staley, you have Nick Sorensen, who's the defensive passing game specialist for the 49ers. You have Daniel Bullocks, who's also the DB coach. And so you've had some different hires. I'm assuming that there's probably going to be another 1 or 2 interviews, maybe some follow-up interviews. But my guess, just based off who's currently been interviewed, it's going to come down to Daniel Bullocks, or it's going to come down to David Merritt. I think those two, you have a lot of pedigree there. You also have, again, with David Merritt, he's got a former linebacker. Daniel Bullocks already knows the culture. He's got that relationship with the players. And so I think it's going to come down to one of them two. But it's finally good news to see some movement on this because the draft's not too far away, and we need to have a defensive coordinator in place. Regardless of what John Lynch said, oh, we already know our identity. That's baloney. We know we need somebody there to help with the identity, but also to be able to speak into the specific players and what they want from their scheme. So David Merritt, we'll see where this goes. He got that interview. Now, the next question is, what is the 49ers' biggest need on defense? What is their biggest need? For a long time, we've been saying that we need to find somebody opposite of our number 1 corner. Well, Diamador Lenore absolutely shine, but we do absolutely need another nickel corner, somebody to challenge Ambry Thomas. I know typically when you go nickel, Diamador slides down and then you have Ambry on the outside, but we need to have somebody to challenge Ambry Thomas. But ultimately, this might be a surprise to some of you, it's our defensive line that needs attention. Regardless of how much money has been spent into that defensive line, you have Eric Armstead making over $15 million on that line. You have Javon Hargrave making over $21 million on that line. You have Nick Bosa making over $30 million on that line. But outside of that, Eric Armstead's on the last year of his deal. Javon Hargrave, you can get out of that deal after this year without much cap penalty. Then you have Cleveland Farrell, who's a free agent. Chase Young, who's a free agent. You have Randy Gregory, who is a free agent. Hargrave is 31 years old. Armstead's been dealing with injuries after injuries. He misses multiple games. You need to find depth on that defensive line. Does it happen through the draft? Probably. They're known for taking defensive linemen early, but I do think they need to build and bulk up there. Otherwise, you're going to start seeing the defensive line getting tired. And why do the 49ers stress so much on that front 7? Because what they can do is they don't have to overspend on that back end because they're getting to the quarterback with that front 7. So you need to invest in that defensive line, not just for this year, but beyond this year, beyond 2024, 2025, and beyond. And Javon Hargraves, again, already 31, a lot of wear and tear on that body. Eric Armstead, a lot of wear and tear on his feet and his knees. You see that, what he had to play through this year. So we really need to invest in that defensive line. Don't be surprised to see Chase Young come back next year, potentially Cleveland Farrell coming back next year, and some other surprise moves. But that's what needs to happen, and I'm glad that we're finally trying to get a defensive coordinator in place, that there's finally been some movement, and let's see what happens throughout the rest of the week. Well, that's all we have for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on Niner Orange.